All right, so we are going to talk about the history of Ashtanga and the foundations, and a few other components that exist within yoga history and philosophy as well. Um, so yes, we'll jump into that now. Give me just a second. Okay. Um, Give me just a second and we'll get started here. Okay. So let's dive into the history and philosophy of Ashtanga. So, this practice is not just about the postures, it is about discipline and liberation and transformation. And we talked about tapas earlier and the yamas and niyamas. Of all the different lineages that I've experienced, they all call for a um, they all have the need for discipline, but I feel like Ashtanga tugs on you in a way that some of the other lineages don't necessarily. Um, and it's because, or at least my thought to it is because it can be physically demanding, more so than some of the others. So that discipline, when you've done, let's say the previous day you did 25 chaturangas, and then you know that that is what is waiting for you the next day, discipline takes on a very different feel when the practice itself can be physically challenging in some moments. But it is where, within that discipline, is where there's space for that liberation and space for that transformation to happen. Because even though you're doing the same series each time you come to the mat, even though the postures are the same, the experience of them changes from day to day and sometimes from moment to moment and sometimes from posture to posture. So just kind of keeping that in mind as we move through the call for discipline that Ashtanga asks of us. So yoga in its earliest forms were practices of union of body, breath, mind, and spirit, which we kind of know that at this point. Um, During the Vedic period, yoga meant prayer and mantra and ritual. In classic yoga, Patanjali gave us the eight limbs. So we started talking about a portion of the eight limbs. Asana practice is third. Yamas and niyamas are steps one and two, and then number three is your asana practice. Um, so where asana is just one of the steps towards liberation, which we I was just mentioning. So the hatha yoga yogis introduce postures, bandhas, and mudras, and as we move prana, so we move our energy and our life force and within the body. Ashtanga yoga was known as we know it today. It's part of a living lineage. It is rigorous, which I did just speak about, disciplined and transformative. But its intent is to serve people and not harm them. So when you come to the mat, the purpose of the Ashtanga is to meet you where you are. And we want to keep that in mind because our bodies, our minds, our spirits, we feel different from day to day sometimes, as I said before, from moment to moment. So when we step on the mat to practice, the experience may be drastically different, but we don't necessarily want to push ourselves through a practice to where we would be harmed, but we do want to be aware of what we may feel is resistance. So how do we move through that resistance versus um, being concerned about causing harm in some way? So there's a difference in our approach. We approach it with the full awareness of what we're stepping into and do our best to honor our bodies and our experiences in that time. So let's talk about Krishnamacharya was teaching in Mysore in the 20th century. Um, And he essentially systematized Ashtanga yoga as a disciplined practice. It was at that point taught to young boys and men. And this is what the Tristana method was born out of. And the Tristana method is comprised of three things: it's your breath, your bandha, and your drishti. So, your breath, your posture, how you're holding the energetic um, locks that are within the body, and your drishti, your gaze, your focus point. The sound of the breath that you're trying to emit is it can be mimic the sound of the ocean of the of waves going in and out. Um, but we want to make sure that our essentially that our inhales and our exhales are of the same length. Then from our posture, we know that that is the physical alignment that builds strength and steadiness within the body. And in order to maintain or promote that strength and steadiness, we use our drishti, our gaze, our focus point to give the mind one thing to place its attention on. Um, in order for it not to wander while we are working through the various postures that Ashtanga Yoga calls for. All right. So together, when we combine our breath, bandha, and drishti, our breath, our posture, and our gaze, this allows us to experience the moving meditation that Ashtanga yoga can be, and the moving meditation that any lineage of yoga can be. When we can connect those three pieces together. Um, Now, I mentioned bandhas just a moment ago. So bandhas are these energetic locks within the body that directly impact our prana, so directly impact our energetic flow throughout the body. So our first is Mula Bandha. It's the root lock. It's engaged in the pelvic floor, stabilizes energy, and awakens the base. So if you are energetically leaking from a point of feeling rooted and not feeling grounded, it can make the body or make the mind feel insecure in the body and insecure in the moment and in the environment. So we want to make sure that we're able to essentially utilize Mula Bandha to stabilize the energy within the body so we can feel rooted and grounded within the experience that we're having. Then there's Uddiyana Bandha. That's the abdominal lock. It's drawing the lower belly up and in, creating lightness and fire. So if our lower abdominals aren't engaged, if we're not lifted out of the pelvis, everything begins to feel heavy and stuck and stagnant. That means we're, in a sense, from a physical perspective, think of it as kind of snuffing out our fire or quelling our inner fire. So when we engage our lower abdominals, lift the belly button up towards the chin, it gives us an opportunity to light that fire within the lower belly, and that fire then can travel throughout the rest of the body and aid as fuel for our practice. And then there's Jalandhara Bandha, which is the throat lock, and that's tucking the chin slightly in towards the chest to seal the upward flow of that energy. So we're sealing off the flow to contain it within the center mass of the body. Now, with Jalandhara Bandha, you're not practicing that particular lock without some form of supervision under a teacher that can guide you safely through it to create um, the proper environment for you to leverage it, use it, what have you. That's something we want to be responsible with because it can feel as though your airflow is being impacted in a uncomfortable way, and that in itself can cause dysregulation. So we want to be mindful of how we're using that. So bandhas have the opportunity to transform our practice from mere movement into energetic awakening. Think of it as we are collecting this energy into a particular space within the body to then use it throughout our practice to um, guide our life force through this flow, through the experience that we're having on the mat. I like to refer to it as it creates this opportunity for us to ride the wind, um, where you're locked in to your mind, body, and spirit. Your breath and body are moving in in this flow, in this pattern where they feel very much connected together. Um, they protect the spine and regulate the breath and channel our life force into a focused manner, as opposed to that energy kind of being scattered throughout the body, and it being less effective when it's kind of dissipated all over the place. So, who is Ashtanga for? Ashtanga can be misunderstood as something that is just for a certain body type, a certain set of people. You got to be super flexible, you got to be super strong, and so on and so forth. But I firmly believe that the practice will meet your body wherever your body is. It is just a matter of you showing up to see what's possible and see what's available for you. Um, it is designed for discipline and not for the aesthetic. There are, let's keep it a buck. There are some really cool things happen in Ashtanga classes where the body does these amazing things happen, right? But it's through practice and discipline that you open the door for the opportunity for those things to happen. It's not that you have to show up to the class uh, already having this particular ability. It is for anyone who wants to practice and is willing to engage within the practice and to show up to it humbly to see what is possible. Um, and it very much can and should be modified or adapted to meet a person where they are, where they can still practice with rigor, but without causing harm to the body, mind, spirit of the student that is in class. So Ashtanga, yes, is definitely for everybody. It can be modified to accommodate body types that come through the door, and you definitely want to make sure that you are doing that, because again, if the class feels unattainable, students will not come back. And then from there, from that standpoint, from that thought process, this gives the opportunity for the body, the mind, the spirit, for the student to find their version of liberation. It gives the, excuse me, the space for that to happen. Um, Without any judgment, without any, oh, it's supposed to look like this and it's supposed to look like that. So, Ashtanga itself was brought by Guruji, so Patabi Joyce, codified the primary series, intermediate series, and the advanced series in his teachings. And that portion of it is where we get kind of what we see today, not kind of, we get what we see today as the formal Ashtanga practice that you show up to a Mysore class, you do your self study, what you are working on, your swadhyaya, when you step on the mat and you practice to a point where your teacher has assigned you to, and that's what you would work on 6 days a week. And then one of those days, you would do the full primary and go through the entire thing as it stands right now. To understand the deeper map behind Ashtanga, we'll take a look at the chakra systems. So let's take a look at the chakras rather, which again is the subtle energy that exists throughout is the subtle energy system that exists throughout the body. So Muladhara chakra is your stability, your grounding, and Ashtanga, it's the foundation of your standing poses. Do we feel rooted? Do we feel strong in this space? Swadhisthana is your sacral chakra. It's your creativity, your flow. I like to think of these as your jump forward and jump back on your mat, and how they relate to our movement of going from the back to the front of the mat. Manipura, your solar plexus, your power, your fire. Those it's just the energeticness and the vigor to which you practice your vinyasa. As you move through the flow, your vinyasas exist between your seated postures. Your anahata, your heart chakra, the compassion and expression that you can have for yourself and that you want to try and access and leverage when you are on the mat. And give yourself the grace to say, oh, maybe that posture is not with me today, or maybe it is. Again, it's back to that seeing what's possible. It gets expressed in the physical body when we're doing back bends, those deep heart openers where the front of the body is opened. Um, Vishuddha, your throat chakra, communication through your truth. This is your breath. This is your that ocean sound like breathing that we're doing, making sure the inhales and the exhales are equal. Then then your third eye chakra, your intuition, your clarity. It is your link to your drishti, your focal point. Um, and then your crown chakra. So it's an opportunity to connect with flow, or the energy of the universe or the surround that surrounds us as we move through our practice. All right. So your chakras remind us that Ashtanga is not just a physical practice. It also connects to it has a deep connection within the energetic body as well. In order to kind of fully understand this, we also will visit the Samkhya philosophy a bit. And that the Samkhya philosophy explains the universe. So we talked about that crown chakra being connected to the universe as Purusha, which is your pure consciousness, and Prakriti as the material nature. And these two things combined are how we express things within our human experience. Everything we experience, mind, body, emotions, arise from Prakriti. So yoga is the path of distangling your prakriti so purusha can shine freely. So it's not being caught up in the material. It is more so being working to connect the energetic portions of the body with that material experience, but not getting stuck on either end of it, if you will. um Being giving space for that duality to exist. So, um, how does thinking about Ashtanga as an energetic practice and philosophy, how does that inform the physical practice? What shifts do you think that you can make in your own practice based off of the information that we just went over? All right, so let's talk about the kleshas and gunas. To understand the obstacles that can exist in the yoga practice, we're going to talk about the kleshas. These are the five afflictions. They come from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Avijja, so ignorance, forgetting our true nature. So getting caught up in, just to put it bluntly, getting caught up in bullshit, where we forget kind of who we are and what our core belief system is as a person. Um, Asmita is egoism, identifying only with our self image. So this one happens in the world a lot, where where folks assume that their lived experience is the same for everyone else. And I feel like as a society, we grapple with this on a regular basis. And this is also why we end up having to explain racism over and over and over again to people. Because unfortunately, folks think that their lived experience is the only experience out there that exists. And that has a detrimental effect on society and on other people at large, because not everybody is experiencing the same 24 hours a day that the person next to them is. So then there's raja. So this is attachment, clinging to pleasure. too high on the highs. Um, so we know that there has to be some balance to that. We can't be chasing the good all the time, because then we're avoiding. Typically, we're avoiding the things that we need to take care of in life. Dvesha is aversion, avoiding discomfort. Um, and again, we talked about this earlier, you and I, regarding procrastination. We're avoiding the discomfort of doing the chore that we don't want to do, and all while that's happening is it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and becoming more of an albatross than it otherwise would have been had we just done the thing. And then a bini vesha, which is a fear of death. So the deepest roots of suffering, it's that fear of loss. Like, what am I going to lose if I make this change? This one for me is when people suffer from habits, or the affliction of being stuck in a habit cycle, regardless of what the habit cycle is, that you have an awareness that you need to change, but you're worried about not knowing what's on the other side of that. So it's kind of that adage of the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. So you get stuck in this cycle that is not healthy and is not serving you anymore, but you don't know how to get out of it. It's that fear of not actual death in the death sense per se, but it's that fear of losing the identity that you have, and the angst and anxiety that can come with knowing that you have to craft a new one. Like, I knew who I was as this person. Now I'm being asked to move in another direction, and I don't know who I am. As I move into that other directions, is essentially, the midlife identity crisis, so to speak. So those are the afflictions, the kleshas that happen within life, as we try and sort through this thing called life. So our Ashtanga practice is done with the awareness that works to burn through these afflictions. The other thing that we want to understand are the gunas. These are the three qualities of nature in the Samkhya philosophy. So sattva is that clarity, that light harmony. That's the thing that we're working towards on a regular basis. Rajas is the activity, the passion, the relentlessness that uh, we take on things with. And then the tamas is kind of that darkness, that resistance that we can inherently experience on on a base level. We are trying to work toward that sattva feeling, that clarity, that light, that harmony all the time. That's kind of the benchmark for where we're working to. We don't want to be too much in that rajasic state where we're just overstimulated, overwhelmed all the time, chase, 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 go, go, go. There has to be a moment where we um, shed a little light on things, and we're able to integrate the things that we learned during those rajasic moments. And Thomas, there is a there is a place for it. It allows us to understand the level of activity, what activity can look like. It allows us to appreciate the other two more, but we don't want to get stuck in it. We don't want to get stuck in the resistance of finding a problem for every single solution that exists. Our goal is to work closer to being in that sattvic state as much as we can as possible. All right. So, um, and even though our actions and our practice do reflect these quality, through yoga we aim to cultivate that sattva clarity, and balance is what we're working for as well. We use our Ashtanga yoga as an aid with discipline and the repetition that works through the rajas and the tamas, to uncover the opportunity for sattva to happen. So that's what we're working towards. So things that we explored today were, we talked about the roots of yoga and Ashtanga history. We talked Krishnamacharya and the Tristana method. We talked about Drishti and we talked bandhas, the energetic locks, chakra as it maps to the subtle awareness throughout our practice. We talked about the Samkhya philosophy, Purusha and Prakriti, the kleshas as obstacles, the gunas as qualities of nature, of human nature, we'll say, and then the ongoing challenges that we kind of face as practitioners, of making Ashtanga accessible to give the opportunity for students to experience it as a liberatory practice. And note too that Ashtanga yoga included in this, it's or any other lineage of yoga, it's not a fix. There's nothing broken to begin with, right? It's an alive, um, living kind of lineage and practice that allows us to work on self and our experience of self. Okay. It gives us an opportunity to work towards liberation. Do we always get it right? No. Do we always get it wrong? No. But it is us being given the opportunity to fully figure it out along the way and not be mired in the noise that happens within the mind of, oh my goodness, I'm not doing this thing correctly. I am, stuck to some degree. Uh, I'm not good enough. I can't get on the mat today. All the things that happen to go on within the mind. Um, it gives us the opportunity to kind of burn that off and work through it in real time.